Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Friends with Death Benefits. Me and Justin here in the studio with the lovely Miranda Moses. Miranda's a CNA in the COVID world, and she's sharing a little bit of her perspective of what it's like on the front lines of this war zone. Touches a little bit on some grief experiences of her own, shares her story, share a couple tears. Thanks for tuning in.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Friends with Death Benefits. Justin here, hanging out with Tiff as always. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you?
Oh, been a wild week already.
Already?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Depending on what day you're listening to this.
Right.
If we're in real time, then
Every day is a wild day.
yeah, time is an illusion anymore. But I had some, as the kids say, some triggering moments earlier this week.
Wow, coming out of the gate with the triggers.
I
Okay,
feel like
let's go.
we have an awesome guest here, and I just kind of wanted to get my shit right out of the way, so we can
Let's talk about Justin's
focus on all
trauma
that.
first.
So, yeah, let's talk about me first.
Yeah,
I don't,
no.
So I'm sure anyone that knows me, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that listen that don't, but I'm a dog guy. I got a puppy. She's not a puppy. She's a small moose. She's 124 pounds. But me and my wife, we got her right when we got married. We don't have any kids. She's like our, I know people that have real kids hate that, but it's like, she's like our baby. Our dog's our child, like get off our couch. It's where our dog sits. That's the kind of shit we say at home. But it's like she's 6 and she got a really bad infection and got really, really sick and had to have emergency surgery. And, I went away Saturday night to do a comedy show, and my wife had to take her to the emergency vet by herself, and apparently the emergency vet wasn't super cool. It was just like, oh, you're probably gonna lose your dog, and it was just real like whatever about
super
it.
Super fun.
And just like, yeah, you're bugging me on a Saturday night. It's 9 o'clock.
Great bedside manner.
I was watching, Saturday Night Live is about to come on, and you got me in here trying to fix your dog. And so, I got home and she was just in bad shape, at 105 fever, wasn't responding really. And it brought back a lot of fucked upness, feelings and memories I hadn't had, since those moments when I lost my mom. Like, for example, I came in the back door. It was 1 a.m. I got home, and I came in the back door because the dog was laying in front of the front door. Like I said, pretty much unresponsive at that point. And my wife met me in the kitchen and was like, okay, come see her. And it felt very much like when you know a loved one's going to die and you go see them in the hospital and someone meets you in the hallway to kind of brace you for the shit you're about to see. It felt very much like that. And that was heavy. And the whole weekend was heavy. I felt like we were watching her die. And then Monday morning we took her and she had the surgery, and they took her away, and watching her take her away on a stretcher was heavy. And that whole day not knowing what was going on. And we waited, we took her to 8 a.m. They closed at 5, and at 4:30 I hadn't heard yet. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be that guy. I know they said they'd call, but I'm not going to just let them go home and not call me. So I called them like, hey, just wondering about, my dog you were cutting open today. How's that going? And they're like, oh, so Dr. 1 thought Dr. 2 called you, and Dr. 2 thought Dr. 1 called. We're sorry. We're just so busy up here today. Gosh darn it. I'm like, we just thought we called you. So if I wouldn't have called, they just wouldn't have heard. And I got an answering machine, oh, cool. Hope she's alive. And
oh God.
So then they're like, she's good. We're gonna keep her overnight. And the next morning they're like, she's good again. And come get her at 4. We're gonna keep her and observe her all day. So I went in there at 4, and I just felt weird going in there. I don't get good news when I get into situations like that. And it's just everybody's just not telling me nothing. And they bring us back to this little room. And that felt very much like that day in the ER when I was waiting for that doctor to come in. And I didn't know what kind of news I was going to get, but I know now. And I haven't been in a situation like that since. And I guess I didn't realize how much of that shit is still hanging out up in the old, the brain area that I've been just kind of blanketed over. Apparently, it's weird how you guys keep telling me to go see a therapist.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny?
So I'm wigging out, and I'm telling my wife, what's going on? Why aren't they, what the fuck? And she's like, no, they would have told us if something was wrong. I'm like, are you sure? Yeah, I don't know. And the doctor came back and was like, well, Grace struggled this afternoon. And I'm like, oh, they're going to fucking tell me my dog's dead. And she just dragged it out to tell me that, her fever went back up because they switched her antibiotics for a couple hours and that she's fine. And I'm just like, great. It's like, do you see that I'm like about to fly through the damn ceiling with anxiety? And we took her home and it was sketchy yesterday, like heavy breathing, just like not herself. And today she's breathing normal, no fever, but still really out of it. But I think she's out of the woods. But I think other than the fact that just like the thought of losing her, like she's like a family member, and like a year less than, a little over a year after losing mom, it's just like I wasn't ready for that shit. And I'm glad that it's looking good. But my wife's like, that's it, dude. She's like, you have a month. She's like, to find somebody. She's like, I'm going to help you find somebody.
Yeah. Good for her. Liz, if you're listening to this, thank you. You needed it. Yeah. Because it's inevitable that your dog's going to die, unfortunately. So like now is like trying to get your head in the right headspace where it's like, okay, like loss is going to happen, but you still have trauma brain. You're still, you still have trauma brain. So it's like, how could you even rationalize anything?
And I didn't know how bad.
Yeah,
I still do. I guess.
Yeah. When I saw the post about the dog, I didn't even finish reading. I saw the first 3 words, and I called right away because I know you are just in no place for that at all, and I worry. I get worried about you, and so I'm glad that you're taking steps to try to get this under control. I mean, I don't even know if you ever get it under control, but learn to cope.
Sure.
Because, you're going to have many moments in your life in that hallway, unfortunately. It's dumb, but you will. So
that's where I'm at this week, but
fun.
What's up with you?
Soup's fun. Where am I at? I am not doing terrible. I actually feel the best I have in a little bit. Working through some super crazy anger stuff. We talked about that last episode. And just hitting the therapy hard. And I started this new therapy. It's like, just stay with me for a second here. This is some hippie shit, but it's like energy work, working with your chakras and,
like a lion energy.
Right. Yeah. Like they go over your budget and like weatherize your house. So it's sort of like it's meditative practices. It's like kind of how there's actually classes out there by shamans that can teach you how to do your own energy healing and stuff like that. But I just went to this guy and he spent like an hour and a half with me, maybe even longer, and just sort of did this kind of healing stuff where we're kind of in this dark room together. This sounds very sexual, but
and you paid this guy for that.
Paid him for it. God, how slutty. And it was just like breath and really light touches on like pressure points on my body and stuff like that. But it was the craziest thing ever because I'm familiar a little bit with the chakras in your body and like how they hold energy and things like that. I'm kind of new to it, but I know enough. But so there's the chakras in the front of your body are your heart and your water, which is like in your belly. So like your water chakra is in your belly. And so he spent a bunch of time on my head, which is called the crown chakra. And he spent some time up there. And then he kind of moved over to my shoulder and like it's like just had his hand like braced under my elbow and like a pressure point on my wrist. And then like my breathing just changed. It was weird. I don't know. And then as soon as he put like his hand like over my sternum, I just burst into tears, just wailed like a baby in front of a strange man. And I was like, I even said like, this is so scary for me. I feel really afraid right now. And he's like, we can stop if you want to. But he said, we're just going really deep right now. And I was like, no, keep going. And oh, wow. Yeah.
Everything you're saying out of context.
Yeah.
Is just
if you're just tuning in.
Wild. So like,
stay with me, you guys.
I've had like 1,000 that's what she said moments as we're
say them, dude. So yeah, anyway, so we just kind of stayed in that area for a little bit. And at one point, like I even said, like, I'm just really afraid to let this go. Like I'm afraid to like relinquish the grief a little bit. And he said something about like ego, and he's kind of whispering to himself, and he's breathing heavy, and he's kind of like he's moving his hands a lot, and like almost like he's flicking things off of me. And I'm as healthy of a skeptic as anyone out there, but I have a friend who's a woman of color, and just by and large, they have every right to be super skeptical about anyone, especially like in an intimate setting like that. And she just is here for it, and she's been seeing this guy for a while. And I was like, okay, so I try it, and but I mean, I went through a whole gamut of emotions. At one point I was sweating. At one point I was shivering. It was bizarre. It was really bizarre.
You feel like you got something out
Absolutely.
of it. That's all that matters.
And I think I'm going to keep going. I figure if I'm going to tackle this whole thing, like I need to take it from a mental health aspect, a physical health. I got to take it from a spiritual health.
I like that you've been very open to lots of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's who you are as a person, but I just mean.
But yeah, when you say that shit out loud, it's like, you sound crazy. Like you do.
It was coming off a little romance novel. I'm not gonna lie.
It didn't feel like it. It felt very scary. And like, there's a lot of vulnerability with that stuff. Same with the therapist, but it's different.
What up, girl? You want to do some energy work?
Yeah, girl, your chakra is. I like what's going on with your auras.
Because it just for me a lot of times there's usually like someone touches me and then I cry. So it's it sounds similar to a lot of my
depressing.
What? No, I don't. Anyways,
that's kind of where I'm at. But
cool.
I do feel like much lighter.
Well, if it's got you in a good place, then shit.
Maybe it is the power of persuasion. I don't know. Like
maybe it's lots of different shit coming together. Just to try to
hope
get somewhere,
so. That's what it feels like. But I don't know. I don't really know. But
all you can do is try.
All I can do is try.
You keep trying.
That's right. I'm not
damaged little climber.
That's right. I'm gonna keep climbing. I'm gonna keep going. Oh.
But we have a guest tonight.
We do have a guest. I'm so excited about this episode.
We were having a good conversation before we started. We had to like cut ourselves off
because this woman is full of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we both have met her, but most of our guests have been your finds for the most part.
Yeah.
This one's kind of mine a little bit.
Okay, we'll let you have it.
This is kind of my connect, Okay. I mean, I'm going to hook you up, but, just remember.
And I am forever grateful.
Don't be calling her like late at night without calling me first. You know what I'm saying?
It's like that.
Yeah, you got to go through me because there's a finder's, this whole thing. This is the street code. You got to.
Okay, so before I want to talk about sad shit with another woman, I got to go through a bald dude?
I think that seems reasonable.
All right.
I guess I don't know why we got to make physical assaults on my character and well-being, but that's fine. I guess I don't know if
it makes you stronger.
Signs of a woman that's got no high ground there. That's fine.
Anyways, so introduce this beautiful guest.
So in comedy you get to meet all kinds of people.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I mean, just like living in Mason City, you meet a lot of people just kind of like you, but traveling around doing comedy, you get to meet all kinds of people with all kinds of different points of view. And I was lucky enough to meet this lady through comedy. She is from Charles City, Iowa. And comedy is just a side hustle for her. She's got a lot else going on, and we'll get into that. But her name is Miranda Moses, and we're happy to have you here tonight. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for problem. Thank you guys for the invite.
Yeah.
Very exciting. I've seen Miranda perform a couple of times. Great stuff.
Great stuff. For me, I was happy to feature her on our North Iowa Comedy Festival this year, which was awesome. We had like a sold out crowd. You actually introed the show, didn't you? Was at the show? Yeah. So I mean, we had a good time, and it's just you've been doing shows lately. It's good to see you out doing stuff. And so
first met her at it was the Black Joy event here.
Me too, actually. Yeah.
The last summer.
I was out there hawking talent, you know.
What I mean? Right.
Like looking for.
Yeah. So we had a bunch of people of color out there sharing their gifts, and Miranda got up there and slayed. Because like if we're telling the truth, like bad talent comes in all color. So like when she came up there and like just saved the day, because there was some
good
great
jokes matter.
Good jokes do matter. Yes.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So I've enjoyed watching her perform ever since.
Absolutely. But the reason she's here today is because we put out kind of like an APB on Facebook saying that we'd love to talk to someone in the medical field that has had some experiences with COVID and dealing with all the crazy shit that goes along with that. And I think that's a lot of the stuff we want to touch on. But if you maybe just want to introduce yourself and kind of give just like a quick kind of just like background on who you are. And
my name is Miranda Moses. I live in Charles City. I am a mom of 3 girls. My oldest is 20, got an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old, full-time CNA, part-time comic, sometimes a therapist.
Yeah.
Sometimes a gangster if you need.
Trying not to kill our kids right now.
She wears many hats.
Mostly just trying to, not send the kids to Jesus before he needs them.
Yeah. Single mom.
It's hard. It's hard. Yes, single mom. So got to be the good guy and the bad guy. Sure. So
yeah. And working in the field that you're working in takes a lot. I mean, you're a full-time caregiver all the way around.
Yes.
So comedy is probably kind of a nice break.
Yes, comedy is kind of like therapy for me. Like,
sure.
I go to traditional therapy, but comedy is kind of like the stuff that you're scared. Like, okay, after a while, you kind of feel like I got a relationship. I know this person. It's just certain stuff you don't want to say because they'll look at you like, oh, yeah, she crazy. Next thing you know, here come the pills and the jackets and, the little 3-day vacations that you really don't want.
Right.
So, you can get up there on stage and it's like, I might not never see these people again. Let me tell you what happened to me the other day.
Yeah.
Because somebody going to relate to this like, oh, yeah, I had one of them moments too.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can get away with when you say stuff into a microphone and people think you might be kidding.
Exactly.
True. So like all of your
how
stories,
you say it.
Right? That's true. Yeah, like all of
plausible
the
deniability. That's all you need.
That's so true. That makes good content. So like is all of your material based on like real life?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
like
really tailored. It's just about how you deliver.
That's honestly how I ever got, like, if you would have told me at some point in time I was going to be doing comedy, I would have thought you were legit batshit crazy. Like, I've always been kind of like standoff. I suffer with social anxiety. So getting up in front of a room full of people I don't know and talking to them, less lonely trying to make them laugh, has never been something like, oh yeah, you definitely rock that. Like, no.
Right.
So a friend of mine had signed me up because a guy in O'Day Piece, he was doing a Toys for Tots show and he was just kind of looking for talent and it was kind of open to everybody. And a friend of mine, she hit me, she was like, don't be mad. I'm like, no, usually when somebody tells you don't be mad, that's all the more reason to be mad. What did you do? She's like, I signed you up to do comedy. And I'm like, I'm not a comedian. She's like, you funny, like you just don't know you're funny. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm serious.
Yeah, right.
So I got up there and I'm like, I have no material because as I said, I'm not a comic. Like I tried for 2 weeks to write a joke and each one I'm like, okay, I don't even think this is funny. So she's like, just get up there and talk to him like you would talk to me. She's like, I'll sit in the front. If you need to, just focus on me and talk like you talking to me. And I got up there and people thought I was funny. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
I guess I can do this.
Yeah.
And it just kind of took off from there.
Do you have a lot of people like talk to you after the show like, oh my God, what you said was so true, so relatable?
Like, especially a lot of people with kids. Like if you've seen any of my shows, my like catchphrase is "fuck them kids." And I tell people because I've had a lot of single people that do not have kids. Like, how can you say something like that about kids? And it's like,
because you clearly don't.
You don't have kids, huh? Because if you did, kids can be assholes, honey.
Oh yeah.
So trust me,
Sure.
if you're a parent at some point in time, you've caught yourself saying, you know what, fuck them kids.
Oh yeah.
I'll leave. I threatened to run away more as an adult than I ever did as a kid. Like, I will leave. I promise. You will never see me again. Maybe like, yeah, all right. All the snacks in the pantry. Taking them with me.
That's right. I'm taking this.
I bought them.
I bought this.
That is funny.
But
I think that's what you come out very genuine on stage, I think. And I think that's what makes a good comic is there's so many comics that try to come up with a character or, they feel like they've got to figure out who they are on stage. But if you just can not everyone can do it, but if you can find a way to make your true self come across on stage, which it's a lot harder than it sounds.
It is, yeah.
That's when you got something, I think. And I tried to work with it's Mason City, North Iowa at the same time. There's not a ton of us. So the fact that we found a few, like Miranda, that can hold their own on stage, it's always fun to because there are things about comedy that, like, once you've done it for a little bit, and I'm sure it's with any job or any, like, hobby or whatever, there's certain nuances that, like, you can have conversations with other comics that other people just would not understand, like about doing shows or about the way people approach you before or after shows when they know you're a comic, or just random stuff like that. So it's just it's cool to have a colleague, so to speak, on the show. But
yeah, because the one that gets me a lot is, like, people find out you do comedy and they're like, well, tell me a joke. And it's like,
exactly.
I just walk around with jokes at the front of my brain ready. Okay.
Right.
Or the I got one, you can use this if you want.
It's like, that's the gross. This is grossest. Yeah. You can have that.
It's like, that's why I'm in the middle of Wisconsin. I drove 6 hours here because I couldn't come up with any of my own. I needed to meet you, Steve, so you could tell me all your great jokes. I'll make sure to use those in the next weekend.
Oh God, please stop doing that.
Please stop doing that. Like I said, it happens. But aside from that, I think how long did you say you've been a CNA?
In total, let me see. We'll just say 15 plus years.
Okay, so long. You've been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
How did you start out? Like, was it?
I was living in Chicago and my mom was working for Catholic Charities as a CNA, and she told me, she was like, well, they need home caregivers, and I'm like, well, what's that? She was like, it's kind of like the same stuff I do. It's just you don't have to go to school and get the license. You basically go to somebody's house and you help them out with, like, going grocery shopping or cooking or whatever they can't do for themselves. You kind of help them out a couple of hours a day. And growing up in Chicago, I was a grandma's girl, so I was always under my grandma. And then when I started getting closer to my teen years, my grandma had got diagnosed with breast cancer. And then it went into remission, and a few years later it came back, but it had progressed to her brain. So she stayed at home as long as she could, but with me being a grandma's girl, I stayed under my grandma, so I was always doing stuff for her. So for me, it kind of just felt right. Like, in the Black community, when our elderly get old or get sick, it just is the thing. You don't put them in a nursing home. You take care of them as long as you can, and then the next family member takes over, or we come together and we figure it out. So,
how old were you at that time?
About 12 or 13.
Really?
When my grandma got sick.
Okay.
So,
and I'm assuming she's passed.
Yeah, she passed in 98.
And you were how old?
15.
15. Okay. So you watched kind of this for some years then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was that your first experience with loss, or?
It was my first experience with loss where I kind of fully understood the depth of loss, because I had like a cousin that had passed earlier in life. She was about 4, so I was about 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
And, we were close, so I just kind of knew she left and didn't come back. So, as I got older, I kind of, understood, okay, when people die, they don't come back. But watching my grandmother go through everything she went through and trying to fight it and whatnot, it just kind of gave me a deeper sense of, okay, this is what death is, and it's final, so.
Right. What's the grief look like in like that kind of community of like your family? So if you're all kind of caring for each other, does that care for each other like continue after like somebody dies? I mean, is grief taken seriously like, or do you just kind of internalize and not talk about it, or how does that work?
I think it kind of depends on each person, because when I was younger, I was what they would say over emotional or very sensitive. Like, it didn't take much to hurt my feelings. I would break out in tears. You could say, "Oh, you ugly," and waterworks. Like,
okay,
you would have thought somebody had died the way I would cry. So for me, I've always been labeled as over emotional or sensitive. And I found out later in life, okay, yeah, I am sensitive. So, it is what it is. But I think it just kind of depends, because for me, like, I kind of internalized a lot of it because I didn't feel like I had anybody I could really express my grief to that would understand it from my point.
Was your grandma kind of that person?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you're just kind of left without. Yeah. Yeah.
That's tough. That first
Yeah.
really big one. I remember for me, like it was, I don't have a real big family. So losing my grandma, you know, even though I was in my 20s was, you know, I'd been to funerals, I'd lost friends, I'd lost family, but that was like, you know, you only have a couple people that are your people.
Yeah.
You know, that are just
somebody who understands.
Yeah, that you're just, it's another level. And
you just feel so lost.
And to lose someone that is the person that you would go to when you're having a hard time. That's been the hardest thing for me, even with my mom, is like my mom was the person that when something sucked, that's who you went to. And like her not being here is what sucks. And I can't tell her about how upset I am that she's not around, you know? And same thing with this shit with my dog was like, I wanted to call my mom real bad, you know, and so I completely get that. I absolutely understand.
How did you work through that? Are you still working through it?
I was going to say, honestly, I don't think I've truly worked through, like, I don't know, because in my life, I've had a lot of grief. Like, I lost my grandmother in 98, but before my grandmother died, I had a cousin that was like a brother to me. He was killed by Riverdale police. So I had that. And then after my grandmother, I had like my aunt. My grandma had 7 kids, but out of all of her kids, my aunt, that was like my one other go-to person. Like whatever I couldn't tell my grandmother, I could talk to my aunt about. And it was never any judgment or never, oh, that's wrong or that's not how you should have handled it. She listened. She never judged. So she passed. So in 2 years' time, I lost all 3 people that were close to me. So,
oh, wow.
It was just kind of like, you know, life goes on. But as I've gotten older, you know, I tell people grief is weird because you'll think you over it and, you know, today's a good day and you could somebody can walk past and you'll smell their perfume and it'll take you right back to where you were. And you're like, okay, I so thought I was over this and I worked through it. And you figure out you're not really where you thought you were.
Right. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
We understand that completely.
Yeah. Totally. So that's been how many years?
90.
So she passed 23 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's still.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it shows the spectrum.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is so big, and especially to experience that much loss in such a short amount of time, that is a lot. And how can you even process that when it's just so
how much it changes someone's life I mean, if you were to like you said it's about 3-year period that all happened. Like if the you 3 years, you know, in between could meet the you the 3 years before and be like, buckle up. You know what I mean? Like, life's going to be real different in 3 years.
Yeah, because
you can't be ready for that. Like we talked a little bit before we went on, you know, started recording, is you just don't know. Like we're all just like sacks of meat walking around that if we get poked wrong, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, we're these intricate beings with feelings and thoughts and emotions, and it's like
we're so fragile.
The wrong breeze, it's over. Like
for
it's
real.
fucking curtains. Like that is some scary shit. Like,
it is.
And none of us are living like we know that, even though we do. Like we're all like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Totally.
Like driving on the interstate at night is fucking bonkers.
Like, trust me, I know. My drive over, I was like, what is wrong with people? Like anybody can get a license in Iowa up here.
And none of us are scared. It's fine. 2 little flashlights on the front of a giant metal container and you're driving 70 miles an hour in pitch black. Like, it's fine. This is what we do.
Yeah, God forbid if Bambi decides today is the day, I'm going for it.
It's we don't realize how
But we also go, I'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll call that person tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So, okay. So going back to like the caregiving thing. So when you lost your grandma and stuff, and so you kind of just continue to adopt the role as this kind of caregiver, and it's been your pretty much your career.
Yeah.
So in the tenure of all these years, like have you lost clients, patients? I was a CNA for like 8 years, and I was blessed to be able to be a part of a lot of people's passing, and I was honored to do that, but it's hard.
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard.
Like, and some of the times you think, oh, it's not going to affect me like that, and it does. Like, I can remember I had one resident, and me and him just did not see eye to eye. I thought this man was the devil incarnate. Like, he is just evil. Nothing you do is right. Nothing you say is right. It's just always, you're wrong. And it's like, okay, whatever. So when he did start getting low sick and started going through the process of transitioning, it was like, okay, I'm kind of used to it now. I've seen it before. It's kind of just going through the steps. And then when he passed, as a CNA, like, we have to go in and clean the body up and get it ready for the funeral home, or if the family wants to come and sit. So we were like in there and we're giving him a sponge bath and getting ready to change the linens and stuff. And I just like broke down and start bawling. And the nurse is like, what's wrong? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, I don't know. So after about 10 minutes, she was like, honey, you just need to go home because you cannot go. And I literally cried for like 3 days over it. And I'm like, I didn't think I even liked this man. So why are you so upset? And it's just like, because after I had a chance to process it and think about it, it was like, he was there and he was alone. And I just feel like nobody deserves to die alone. Like, I understand you come into the world alone, but throughout life, you make friends, you have family. Nobody should be in a position where when it's time to transition, they're by themselves.
Yes. And I imagine in your profession, that's something you see more often than you'd like.
Yes.
As people get older, and even if they had people, maybe most of their people are either gone, or a lot of the times the reason people are in a home is because people around them had given up on, like you said, and and you take care of each other and you keep them in their own home as long as they can. But it's a very white culture type of thing to be like, oh, you're difficult, let's put you over here and
let's get rid of you.
We'll come see you every now and then. We'll have some breakfast, and
then it gets less and less, and then it is it's tough.
And as the person that's there with him all day, you imagine it's always been an interesting thing to me. I remember as a young guy, some of my earliest memories is my great-grandparents were in the nursing home in North Springs, and we would go several times a week. My mom was very close with her grandparents, my great-grandparents, and I just remember being there a lot, spending time with them, to the point that I knew the CNAs and the nurses, and I knew other clients, and they knew me, and it was just like I was like a fixture there as a small guy. And I've thought about that over the years, where like when you, like, for example, all of us sitting here, with any luck, we'll all get to live where we're comfortable the rest of our lives. But there's a chance one of us ends up in a nursing home at some point. It's weird to think that however many years down the road, we're going to interact with someone that we don't know right now that's going to be in that position, that CNA position or that nurse position, where that you're going to, the end of your life, the end of your ride, you're spending a bunch of time with a person that for any other reason you wouldn't know them, but maybe you develop a connection, and it's life's interesting that way.
Yeah, it is. So now we're in this really weird time, like in healthcare.
Yes.
Have you seen more of that solitary death type stuff happening because people can't visit their loved ones in nursing homes? And like, are people in these facilities and more isolated and having to go it alone?
Yes. And mentally it's taking a toll on, like, I feel like being in a nursing home takes a toll on an elderly person as is, because you've been taken out of an environment you've been in the last 20, 30 years, and that's all you know. And then you're being thrown in this building and told these people that you don't know, you're supposed to trust them to take care of you, and they got your best interest at heart, and you got all these other old people that you don't know, and now you're supposed to develop some type of relationship with them, and now here comes COVID. And the world literally shuts down around you, and you're being told maybe the few people that were coming to visit you now cannot come and visit you. So if you get sick, you really just isolated, because you have some aides that are just you can't fault them. They definitely terrified of it. So,
sure.
And I thank God that some of the facilities, like I have a home facility that I've been at for the last 4 years, but I do agency. So like, I thank God I've been given the option, like you don't have to work with COVID patients if you don't want to, but if you choose to, you can.
Mm-hmm.
But some places don't give you that option. Like I've been sent to a place, and when I got there and signed in, the nurse was like, "Oh, and just so you know, that hall is full of the COVID residents." Wait, what? Because nobody even told me there was COVID in the building.
Right.
Less lonely, you got a hall full of people that are positive and sick.
Right.
So
it's there's multi-level fear there. I mean, like, because you have to protect yourself.
Yes.
And
you got to think about your loved ones.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Stuff like that. Because, like, me, I have a daughter, my youngest daughter, my 7-year-old. She was a preemie, but she doesn't have many health issues, thank God. But she's had 5 respiratory surgeries. So she has a compromised immune system, but her respiratory system is compromised as well. So for her to get COVID, God forbid, her doctor honestly told me, like, I don't think she would survive it. Like, if she was one of the ones that was to get it and her body reacted negatively, her little body probably wouldn't be able to handle that. So for me, that was a fear. Like, when COVID became a big thing and I really started to see that the nursing homes were shutting down and, stores were closing and, you basically were a prisoner in your house. I'm like, okay, now I have a decision to make. Do I keep going to work and facing this head on, or do I try to find another job to take care of my kids, or what do I do? But then at the same time, you have an emotional attachment to these people because you've been around them for years. So they're kind of like your family as well. So you don't want to let them down, but at the same time, you don't want to let your family down. So it's kind of like this emotional tug of war. Like, what do I do that's going to be best for everybody?
Right. What have you been doing, or what was the decision?
I've been going to work. Like, I just
plugging in.
By the grace of God. I got COVID. Like, my oldest daughter, she does kind of like something similar. She works at a place called Comprehensive Systems. So they deal with people that are less intellectually challenged or whatever. And she had got COVID in November. So when she got it, I'm like, shit. It's in the house. And anybody that has kids know when one kid gets something, as soon as they get over it, the next kid gets it, and it kind of makes its way through the house. So I'm like, okay, now it's in my house. What can I do to kind of stop it? And like I say, we're a close family. We do movie nights. We eat together. So it's like, at this point, we already got it? So when we all tested negative, she did everything she could to keep us from getting it. So fast forward a month later, I test positive. And my 7-year-old, she is a mommy's girl. So she's always under me, hugging me, kissing me. So at this point, I am definitely terrified. Like, have I given this to my baby? Like, so for me, I think mentally, that was like one of the straws that kind of like was like, okay, enough is enough. Because I had to take a few months off. Like, I mentally, I was just not in a good space. Like, I'm watching my residents pass back to back and seeing how they're suffering. My daughter just got it. I saw how she suffered. I literally, like, when I got it by day 3, I told my daughter, I'm like, listen, do not take me to a hospital. Do not. I do not want to die hooked up to a damn machine. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die at home in my own damn house with some type of dignity. Do not take me to a hospital, because all they're going to do is stick me in a room, hook me up to a machine, and leave me in there, and just whatever happens, happens.
Was that what you were experiencing in your field? That's what you were seeing?
Like,
that's what you've been seeing?
Like, I've had a lot of people that once patients have got COVID and they started getting sick, and we kind of realized they were giving it the best fight they got, but they weren't gonna make it. I felt like they got less than standard care. Like, they were left alone for hours, and people would peep in, or they were going in there and just basically doing the bare minimum and coming right back out. And it's like, like, at the end of the day, COVID or not, these are still people. They still have emotions. And to look at somebody and they know they are in the process of transitioning, and to see the fear in their eyes is a horrible thing.
And that's the things I think about. It's been the hardest thing for me is like you said, those are all people. And like that's all, like, I think about, like, the things I've been through, like losing my mom, like each one of those person is like someone's kid or someone's mom or they've got their people and their people have them. And it's like the people that are so whatever about COVID are just like, they can look at those numbers of people that have died and be like, the flu's killed more people. Or, it's not even that big of a deal. They want us to think it's a big deal, but it's like for the people that are seeing these individual people that are leaving people behind that are devastated because they lost them. Like and that's 1,000 times over. And it's just crazy.
And it's people, I don't think we talk about enough as far as the people who are looking into the eyes of these people, like you were just saying.
It's so easy to ignore when you don't see it.
The fear. I mean, like I said, I've been there with several people in their dying moments, and some go peacefully and some are terrified. But what we do know about COVID is it's not pleasant.
No.
And it is, I mean, you're drowning.
You're literally drowning in your own body fluids. Your lungs fill up with mucus and they start to crystallize. And no matter how hard you try, you just cannot get enough oxygen in. Like, it's been over a year, but I clearly remember we had one little lady. And, I used to call her Baby Bird because she was just so little and fragile to me. I just felt like from the time she came, I needed to protect her. Like, she was my little baby bird. And she got COVID. And she got so sick so fast. And she fought so hard. So it was devastating to watch that woman sit. And she's hooked up to this machine and we're turning the oxygen up as high as we can and trying to get oxygen in. And she is fighting. And her daughter was able to come and see her and spend time with her. And you could tell she was fighting to hold on. And her daughter told her, she's like, Mom, just go. Stop fighting. And she fought for another 2-3 hours. And, I was in the room with her because I'm like, for me, I just, like I said, I feel nobody should be alone when they're dying. And her respite got down to a point where we knew she was literally maybe 20-30 minutes away. So I'm like, I'm just going to sit in here with her. She's not going to pass along. And I had a nurse yell at me, it's other people that need you. And have some type of compassion.
Right.
Like, I understand it's other people that need me, but at the same time, I'm not the only aide in this building.
Right.
It's somebody else that can go answer a call light. It's somebody else that can go wipe a butt or something. But somebody needs to be here with this lady. Like, don't leave her in that position. And I refused to leave her in that position. And I got wrote up for insubordination. Like I told my DON, I don't care. You could fire me. But for me and for her, I felt like that's what she needed. So if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I don't feel like I was wrong.
No.
So, and I feel like with COVID, it's really showing some people true colors because I feel like a lot of people are in the healthcare field and really for their hearts reasons. Aren't in the healthcare field.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, totally.
And people are like trying to take humanity out of it. And it's like, that's when people can act like it's not a big deal when they try to take the humanity out of it. But I just recently had a friend who they all went to California for a wedding and everybody got it. And their mom, who's only like in her 50s, I think, passed away. And that's when you get into those weird situations. Like I was just going to say it, the thought of, you were saying your youngest daughter having issues with her respiratory system and then you getting it. And like, you're already thinking about not working your job because of the thought of getting it, but then you have it and your daughter's there and you're like worried about giving it to her and what that could mean. And at the same time, your daughter wants love from you and you don't know whether to like, oh, I want to hug my daughter, but I don't want to be the reason my daughter gets, that had to be just unreal.
Yeah, because I literally kind of like had to lock myself in the room because, she's 7. She doesn't understand. Like, and for her, she's one of those kids, you have to explain it in a way she can understand. So for her to process it, she went on YouTube and Google like what happens when you get COVID. So she's looking up all this information and, she came to my door one day and she was like, Mommy, if you get really sick and die, where do we go? Oh. And, not being able to answer that was devastating. Like,
Just
like
the fact that she even had to ask that,
and that as a parent just is devastating. Like, because every parent has that thought come across their mind at some point in time. Like, God forbid if something happens to me, what's going to happen to my kids? But to be faced in that type of situation where that's an active thought, like I may have to actually give somebody custody of my kids because I won't be here. And, then it triggers so many other emotions. Like, if I'm not here, who's going to teach my girls this, that, the other, or who's going to be there for them when it's time for homecoming or time to get married, or, it's like the mental toll it takes on you. Like, it took a toll on me physically because I still suffer with a lot of like breathing issues, and I had heart problems before COVID, but it's damaged my heart. So, for me, it did physical damage, but the mental damage that was done, I feel like was worse than anything.
Yeah. Like having it or dealing with it in the field and having it. Are you talking about like
I feel like dealing with it in the field and having it, because to see it is one thing, but to actually go through it and kind of get an understanding of what these people are going through, it touches you in a different way, because you can see it and still not fully process it, but to see it and to live through it, it's like, this is horrible. Like, nobody should ever have to experience this.
Right.
And to know it gets worse than what I had to go through, it's like, how can you expect anybody to go through this and be okay mentally? Like, whether they're watching it, going through it, dealing with it from somebody they know, how? Like, I feel like at this point they should just start handing out free mental health. Like, come in on Tuesdays, we'll have doctors lined up, and you just lay on the couch and just talk until your heart's content.
Yeah.
Because
like, what do you say to these people when they're struggling to breathe and they're terrified? Like, how do you comfort them?
It's really nothing you can do other than holding their hand and letting them know that, somebody's there. Somebody is here with you. You are not alone. And for a lot of people, I feel like that's the biggest thing, because, you just don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Like, we had one lady, she got it, and that's all she kept saying, just don't leave me alone. Oh. Don't leave me alone. Like, she, you would hold her hand, and when it was time for your shift to go over, you literally would have to pry her hand off of yours because she was so scared to let go.
Oh my God.
Because she didn't want to be alone. And it's like, that, like, I couldn't imagine mentally going through that, like, knowing I'm actively passing and
nobody's here.
Yeah. Not one soul.
Oh.
And then the early days of everyone was passing away, and then like no one could mourn their loved ones, right? No one could have funerals or do the things they wanted to do because the same thing. It's like I couldn't be there to be with them while they were passing, and now I can't be there with them to say goodbye. It's like, it's just, the whole thing is just ugly.
What have you had many interactions and experiences with like living family members of these patients, like how it's affected them or the toll it's taken on them, or like do you get to interact much with the families?
Not so much interact, but like afterwards, like usually after the funeral and stuff like that, the families will come back in and they'll send gifts, and we just want to thank you for the care and whatnot. And the ones that visit often, they get to know some of the CNAs on a personal level. So
you guys
they'll,
all have relationships.
pull you to the side and say something to you. Like I did have one lady come in. She was like, Mom just loved you. Just loved you like you were her own. Like, she always spoke very highly of you. She thought the world of you. And, for me, it was the same thing. So for her daughter to know that there was somebody there all the time that her mom felt like was there for her, was enough comfort for her.
Yeah.
So for her, it made her feel better.
Yeah.
She was like, I know, even though I couldn't be here, they told me you were here as much as you could be. You hung out as much as you could. Like, if I, like, on my off days, sometimes I would try to go, like, y'all need some help, I'll come in.
Yeah. So it's worth being insubordinate. Because that's who you are. Yeah. I mean, you're just, So obviously you've been in this game for a minute. And so you've experienced, the elderly passing. Like, this is what happens in nursing homes and in long-term healthcare. But has the COVID experience or COVID life changed the death experience for you? Like, because you've watched old people die for many, many years, but like, has it changed your perspective on death, or has it changed you as a person? Like, through this, you're basically in the middle of a war zone. I mean, truthfully, those of you that work in the healthcare field, the trauma that comes with what y'all are going through right now, is really real and not talked about enough, I don't think. But I mean, how do you feel like it's changed you?
I mean, in some ways, I feel like it's changed me for the better, but then also in some ways, I can kind of see how it's negatively affected me. Like, I feel like in a way, it's changed me for the better because I do have a greater understanding of, today could be your last day. So, if it's something you want to say to somebody, don't put it off because it might be their last day. Mm-hmm. They might walk away from you, might not never see them again. So, whatever you want to say it in that moment. Stop putting it off for tomorrow. Stop planning that trip. Like, this year, I took my daughter to New York for her birthday. It's been something that was on my bucket list, but she got COVID in November. I had it December. Her birthday's in February. I'm like, you know what? We getting on that plane. Like, anybody that knows me knows I am definitely afraid of heights. So that's one reason why I've never really traveled, because I'm like, if I got to get on a plane to get there, tough luck. I'm not going.
Yeah, right.
So when I told her, I'm like, I'm going to take you to New York for your birthday, she's like, you got to get on a plane, right? I'm like, I'm getting on the plane. She's like, they gonna sedate you? How we gonna do that? Like, I don't think you're gonna be, because they will land the plane and you will go on a no-fly list if you get on the plane and go crazy. I'm like, no, I'm gonna get on the plane. And the whole while I'm just thinking, like, you've been putting it off for up 10 years because you let the fear of what could happen. The plane could fall out the sky. I say, but in the same aspect, you could be walking down the street and drop dead. So stop putting it off. Like, whatever you want to do, go out and do it. Either you're going to fail or you're going to succeed. But at least you can say, I've done it. Like my grandmother used to have a saying, nothing beats a failure but a try. So for the longest time, I never understood what she meant. And now I understand. You might go out and fall flat on your face, but at least you can say, I tried.
That gives me goosebumps. That's a good one. Ooh. Yeah, for real. Yeah. I mean, you got it. We talk about that all the time on the show. It's like,
it's so easy to talk yourself out of stuff.
Yeah, you got to live for now, because tomorrow is just like, and I really think this pandemic has given a lot of people that same perspective. So much has been taken from us and from people, but there has been much to be gained from this too, if you are really
I think it's shown the best and the worst of people.
Yeah, for sure. Man, what so are you going to keep going? Are you going to stay in it? You're going to just power through until this shit is.
I mean, at this point, I don't feel like COVID's going anywhere. I feel like it's just going to be part of life.
We just got to get a handle on it.
Part of life that you have to adapt and just deal with it and keep on moving. Like, it's not going anywhere. And they can come up with the vaccines. They're supposed to be coming up with some type of pill, but just like anything else man-made, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. Right. So don't put all your trust in I'm going to get the vaccine and I'm never going to get COVID. Like, that's not the way it works. Life's going to happen. So,
just don't be dumb.
You put your big girl panties on and keep stepping.
Right. It's fair. It's totally fair. Yeah. So, but overall, like, families stayed pretty healthy. Your daughter, your little, never got it. Okay. Yeah. That's good. I mean, we're just not a bunch of boneheads out here. Stop making this shit political and wear your mask and respect your fellow man and
wash your hands.
And keep your damn distance from me. Like,
which I would prefer that anyway.
Yes, I was just about to say that. Like, I have a real issue with like close talkers. Like, when you meet those people and they're just like right up in your grill, and then you take a half a step back and they don't get the social cue. Like their chest has to be on your chest at all times. It's like, 6 feet, bruh.
I've had a couple comic friends be like, can we just never go back to shaking hands again? Like, can we all just agree that was a bad idea from the gate? We should just not greet each other like that anymore. Like,
see, and I'm a handshaker. I do like to shake hands. I'm a toucher, though. That's what we do. I'm a toucher, though. I'm a toucher. Yeah.
I've heard that about you.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got to be good at something,
But it is. It's it's good to. This is the kind of shit we don't get to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think it's the kind of stuff that not enough people are hearing.
Right.
Because it's, like I said, it's so easy if you don't know about it and you don't have to face the intense, true, like detailed reality of it. It's easy to be like, whatever.
Right.
It's easy to look at a number on a piece of paper that says 600,000 or whatever. And it's just like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, people holding somebody's hand that they don't even know that well because they don't want to be alone and they're scared. Like,
and like we were talking before we started recording, it's, pride is the worst of all. I mean, I truly believe it will be the downfall of society, just because everybody's just so prideful, and sometimes it manifests itself in like complete denial, like, no, I don't, that ain't real, this ain't real, and you not affected by it until it's sitting at your dining room table or whatever.
Did you have some of that early on where when they shut everything down, you had to explain to your clients like, hey, no one can come in here because of this, and they're like,
oh yeah,
forget that.
Yeah.
And
I don't care about that.
It wasn't so much the residents as it was family. Like, this is just something that they're putting out there to scare people and this, that. And it's like, no, this is a real thing. Yeah. People are really getting sick and people are really dying. And it's sad to say that some of the same ones that were saying, oh, this isn't real, is some of the same ones that were saying, so you mean to tell me my dad's dead from COVID?
Right.
Like, yeah. Sorry to... Yeah, I have to tell you, but he didn't make it, and then they're sitting there looking like, well, shit, it really is real. Right. Yeah, like nobody jokes about stuff that can kill you. Like it's not like we just wanted to keep you away from your parent. Right. We encourage family coming in and spending time with their loved ones. We want you here. It's better for them if you are here, but trust me, if we tell you not to come, it's a very good reason why we're asking you not to come.
Right.
And the fact it has to get like that, like I've seen people I know even that were so just seems like bullshit to me. It's the government. I don't believe it. Everybody's fine. Then they get it, or someone they really care about gets it and gets real sick, or God forbid dies, and all of a sudden they're like, I was wrong. I was wrong. I'm all, you know what I mean? Do all this stuff now. And it's just like, I think this is where everybody's just out here just making shit up.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Like, I had a friend, and he's one of those people, like, don't get me wrong, I believe in some conspiracy theories, but he's one of those people that is like, everything's a conspiracy theory and this, that. So when, COVID became a thing, he's like, oh, this is just some more government BS, this, that, the other. But then when I got sick and, I was by like day 4, day 5, I was literally begging for death. Like, if I'm going to fucking die and this is how I'm going to die, can we please just make it faster? Because this is horrible. Like, by day 4, I literally had to crawl to my bathroom because I was just so weak. The stand up literally felt like, I had bricks in my, like, your own body weight. And then the body aches and the muscle aches. Like, your skin hurts. Yeah. Like, parts of your body hurts that you, like, at one point in time, I remember I told my daughter, I said, my fucking eyelashes hurt. And she's like, what? I'm like, it hurts to blink. Like, I can feel my eyelashes moving. Like, and I literally feel every nerve in my body. She's like, but you shouldn't, but I do. And they hurt. So, when I got bad, he came to see me and he's looking at me and he's like, you sure it's not the flu? I'm like, dude, I've had the flu. Yeah, and this is not the flu. Like, I can barely walk. You mean to tell me this is the flu? So as I started to get worse, he's like, okay, maybe this really is not just some government hoax. This is real. I'm like, yeah, it's real. Like, have you
had any experiences with people that were stubborn all the way to the end? Because I've heard stories from nurses and CNAs, just online, not anybody I know personally, but people telling stories of people getting it so bad that they were right before going like on a ventilator, and they're telling these people, like, they're trying to give them an iPad to call to like FaceTime their loved ones, and they're like, do you want to talk to your loved ones? And they're like, no, because this isn't, I don't have this is something else, it's not real, all the way to like getting intubated, that they still were just like, I don't believe this shit. Like, did you see anybody that stubborn that even in the face of it still were able to be like, I don't think so?
Not at my home facility, because like I say, I've been there 4 years. So most of the residents that are there have been there long term, with the exception of the ones that came like this year, because we had a lot pass during COVID. But those people, like, when we started to tell them, okay, you got COVID, you getting sick, they believed us, because they like, okay, I've been around you for years, so I know you wouldn't lie to me. But doing travel CNA, I did go to one facility, and they had a guy, he was maybe in his 40s. And he was there because he was recovering from pneumonia from COVID and caught it a second time.
Oh, wow.
And they started to tell him, like, we're going to have to send you to the hospital. It's not looking good. Do you want us to call your daughter? He's like, nope, I beat it once and I'll beat it again. 2 days later, yeah, he didn't beat it. It beat him.
Oh, wow.
It's sad.
And, that made me think about it too. Like, what would you, like, when your time comes, if you know your time is coming, what would you say and who would you say it to? Like, what would you say to your kids?
Right.
Or, my mom's still alive, and she wanted to come up when I got COVID and help me. And I'm like, you cannot come anywhere near me. Like, my mom's a diabetic and has high blood pressure. You cannot, just got over thyroid cancer, lady. You stay far away from me as humanly possible. Right. Like, don't come around me. I will not open my door. And she's like, but, as a mother's instinct, you're my baby, you sick. And from what I'm hearing, you are deathly sick. I need to come in. And I'm like, what good is it going to do if, God forbid, I do die and then you get COVID? Who's going to get my kids? Like, who's going to teach my kids about me? Who's going to let them know, your mama loved you, Because that was the one thing I didn't, like, I found myself kept reminding my kids, regardless to what happens, no, I love you. Even with my last breath, I love you, Don't ever let anybody tell you any different. So for me, it kind of opened me up more emotionally to my girls, to kind of tell them things that I would kind of hold in, like, because for me, I kind of instilled in them now, like, you have one mom and your mom loves you more than anybody else. So when I'm gone, you'll have people that'll be there for you, but you'll never have anybody that'll love you like your mama love you. Just like, you'll meet other people in your life that you love, but you'll never have anybody that'll love, that you'll love the way you love me. So when I'm gone, just know y'all are all you all have. And I'm a piece of me in each one of y'all. So to keep me together, y'all have to stay together and do for each other and be around each other. So it kind of, because I don't have a lot of family here in Iowa. So for my girls, I kind of wanted them to understand, y'all are all the family y'all have to be together.
Wow.
So there's a weird, strange good that comes from it.
Yeah.
In anything, I guess, but like, if it helps us be better people, I guess it's
I think it's like you take a lot of introspection from the whole thing. I mean, you're really digging deep into some stuff that you probably wouldn't have potentially, facing past trauma, grief stuff, being literally faced with like staring death. And I mean, COVID is no joke. You were on death's doorstep, essentially, and like trying to figure out like how to communicate and be able to like survive it. And then what am I going to take away from that? How can I communicate with my kids better? How can I live each day? Like it means
it really shows a spectrum too of how differently everyone's, like, for example, for you to be like, okay, I see this and I'm going to analyze and handle my shit the best I can while I'm thinking about it. Then you got the guy you were talking about. It's like, I beat it once, I'll beat it again. And everything in between. But it goes back to say we're all people, we're all humans, everybody handles everything differently. But that's the thing we have to remember, I think, just to keep banging the nail with the hammer, is we're all people, and like this is it's a human disease that's wiping humans out, and it's scary and real and should be talked about and understood and taken seriously.
And I think, like, for me, the biggest takeaway of this conversation, and this is something we talk about all the time, is like, we need each other. People need each other. Nobody deserves to be alone in the end. And nobody deserves to walk through life alone either. You know, we were talking a little bit about before the show. It's hard sometimes, especially when you have a lot of trauma, to like let people into your life and you know, and get close with people and ask for help and things like that. You know, like you were saying too with like your therapy stuff. It's like we need it. We need help. We need each other. We, you know. You're looking at me like I don't wanna, but I don't want to.
Yeah,
it's good.
I don't want to need nobody.
I know, I know, but we do, and that's I'm so grateful for people like Miranda, like in your field, and it gives me such comfort knowing that, because I think about that a lot, just because I had worked in that field for a lot of years, like. It always just broke my heart thinking that people were up there dying alone, and that like you were saying earlier, there's a lot of people in that field that are there for the wrong reasons. They don't care if those people are alone in those rooms. So it's so comforting to know that there really are still the good guys out there that are out there doing what you're designed to do with the heart that you have.
And that's the thing for me too, is that you can hear all the stories in the world, but when you sit and talk to someone you know on a personal level and hear stories that they're experiencing, it makes it so much more real to, you know, to sit and talk to you about it, as opposed to just hear someone, you know, not that hearing something, some nurse on the other side of the country telling their story doesn't pull at your heart and you're just like, geez, but to sit down with someone you know personally and hear their experiences, it really makes it very in your face. And not that I didn't, you know, I definitely learned some stuff here, and the stuff you were saying tonight. It probably changed your job in a lot of ways, I imagine. Like my friend Jake that I do comedy with, you know, yeah. Jake, he's a CNA as well. And he's, you know, tried to make light of some of it. You know, like for example, he works with a lot of Alzheimer's patients, and he said that he's spent years trying to convince these people that their loved ones aren't outside the window. He says, but now he has to tell them at 3:30 they're actually there and they're going to come see you, and you have to talk into this walkie-talkie. And he's like, I never thought in a million years this would be how things were at work, but you roll with the punches, I guess. And you know, and
right.
It's interesting.
Because in the beginning of COVID, like nobody really knew what was going on. Mm-hmm. So every day it was kind of like you get to work and you just kind of be like, okay, so what's the game plan for today?
Wild West, yeah.
What is today going to bring? And each day it was, you know, as the CDC said stuff, the criteria changed at work. So you just got to kind of go with it. So most days you really didn't know what was going on until you got there.
Right.
So it was kind of like the uncertainty. Like most before COVID, you went in, you knew what the routine was, you had a game plan. During COVID, it's like, what the hell are we doing? Because everybody's just looking at the next person like, so do you know anything? Do you know anything?
Like, you got to figure it out, something changes.
Exactly. So it was just kind of like everybody was trying to figure it out together, and it's just everybody was confused. So it was just chaos and trying to make the best of a situation that nobody knew where to begin.
Right. And even though like there's a firmer grasp on that stuff, it's still forever changing. You know, things now we're going back in, you know, we're resurging, and like, you know, new protocols are always, I can't imagine what y'all go through as staff. What that brings me to kind of my last kind of question is like, what do you wish was happening for staff that isn't happening? What do you need now for like trauma recovery? And
honestly, I feel like if you have a nursing home that has COVID patients or had COVID patients or staff that had to deal with COVID, I honestly feel like they should get one day a week where they get to go and talk to somebody. Like I had a boss ask, like, what can we do as a bonus? And I was like, you know, pay for some mental health. And she thought it was a joke. And I'm like, I'm not really joking. I'm joking, but I'm more serious than not, because like the mental aspect, like it's been many a nights that, you know, I put a brave face on at work and went home and wasn't able to go to sleep because I just bawled. Like, what the hell? And, you know, when the day I decided I was going to take a break and take a few months off, it was a night because I worked night shift. And I pulled up to my job and I literally sat in my car and cried like a baby because I knew I had to go to work. And it's like, okay, you have to go in there. You have to do your job. You have to be strong. And you just have to power through it. And mentally, I just did not have it in me that day. And I'm like, I can't keep forcing myself to get up and come in here and deal with this and act like everything's okay and I'm superwoman and I can deal with it. Because mentally, it's putting you in a bad space. Like, I started to notice I was more angry and things set me off quicker than they usually would. And it's like, okay, what's the problem? And it's like you holding all these emotions in because you really don't know like how to process them. 1 minute you okay with it, the next minute you're sad, then you're depressed. Then it's like, like I told a friend the other day, I say a lot of people don't understand anger is a secondary emotion.
Right.
So you need to figure out what the first emotion was that led you to anger to figure out what the problem is. And a lot of people can't get to that step because they're so stuck in the anger that it's hard to figure out what set you into anger. And for me, it was depression because mentally my brain was just like, I have to shut certain parts off to comprehend, deal, and keep pushing through.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's what my therapist said. Usually, the first emotions are usually either fear or what was the other one? There's two. It'll come to me. Fear and I just blacked out, and I hope he's not listening to this episode because he's probably
you're looking at me like I was there or something.
Like, but yeah, so like you have to kind of figure out what the hurt, fear or hurt. So it's either one of those two emotions typically. But yeah, most other emotions are just secondary stuff. But yeah, you have to scrape away all that stuff and try to figure out what's really underneath there. And most people don't want to get down there.
No, because it's the dark.
Yeah, it is. Fear is really protective. It's something it's protective. It's easy. It's definitely more acceptable socially by people too. So yeah, crazy. What a crazy look into the world of COVID.
Yeah, thanks for being willing to come in and just be super honest and open about everything.
That is
no problem. Like I tell anybody, if you want some honesty, I'm definitely your person.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's most of our interactions are usually doing shows together where we're just trying to be funny goofballs. But it's nice to get to be human with you, and get to know you on that different level for sure. I feel like we're better friends now.
Yeah.
Justin's forever trying to push his friendship on people through sadness.
I'm a good one to have on your team. I'm not so bad.
No. Well,
he's a good guy. And then he has a fur baby, so he always wins in my book. Anybody that has a pet or a fur baby and refers to him as their kid is a good person. You got to be a good person and love old people and animals because they are just defenseless. So.
Yes.
Whenever I meet a dog that doesn't like, because they say, dogs are a real good judge of character, and if a dog doesn't like you, or a dog doesn't like a person, there's probably something up with that person. But if a dog doesn't like me, I'm like, there's probably something up with your dog. Because like dogs love me. Like all dogs love me. Like you might want to get that dog checked out.
Yeah, you might want to get that. It's always going to be the dog's fault 100% of the time. If
there are very few dogs that don't like me is all I'm saying.
Okay, all right.
Someone hurt that dog.
Fair.
I'm not mad at that dog. Someone hurt that dog.
That's right.
Again, thank you. I hope you got something out of it, enjoyed it, and
loved it. Loved talking to you. She's a funny gal too. Yeah. If you ever get a chance to watch her perform, go out and see her.
Yeah, follow her online.
Yeah, Miranda Moses.
Do all the stuff.
Yeah,
check the shows out. Comedy is alive and well in North Iowa. It's happening.
Yes, it is.
Be a part of it.
Yeah, I know. She adds some spice to the circuit for sure. Love it. I
think there's still so many people in our community that don't realize that there's people out here putting on quality comedy shows and performing, and it's not a real expensive thing to come check out. So
no. And laughter is the best medicine in the dark times that we live in. Yeah. And if you've ever thought in your head, man, fuck them kids, Miranda is the comic for you. Yes. I mean, for real. Because just every time it's like, yes.
I find myself saying fuck them kids so much, and I don't have any. So it's like, I just out in public, I'm just like, man, fuck those kids over there.
I'm telling you.
I don't know them, but they just seem like some kids that just fuck those kids.
Like, I have merchandise now. I have shirts that say fuck them kids. And I wore one to Walmart, and this lady was so offended. She was like, you see her shirt? I'm like, do you see these kids for me? Them the kids I'm talking about, lady. They know. They not offended. Mind your business, okay?
Oh, that's right. God, mind your business. And Every single mom, every parent has thought, what the fuck?
Yes, because I
Fuck them
had
kids.
several moms pull me to the side like, I love your shirt.
Yeah.
I can't wear it because I'm on the PTA, but I love your shirt. I'm like, yeah, they stopped sending me invites years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. I love you show up to
Voice
one
of the
those PTO
voiceless over here.
That's so good.
Like I took my youngest to school one day, and one of her teachers, she was like, "You do comedy, don't you?" I was like, yeah. She was like, "I just want you to know, I love you." She was like, "I sit in my classroom, and at least 15 times a day, I say, fuck them kids." I'm like, yes. I love you. Are you teaching my kid?
Yes.
Please be one of her teachers.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting how you have to brace when you get those? You're like, are you that? I've seen you're like, have you? What'd you see?
Like, what did I say?
I was at my day job.
What did I say?
I had a girl go, "Are you that comic?" And I went, "I don't know. Was that comic funny?" She went, "Yeah." And I was like, "That's probably me." And then my day job boss goes, "Does that happen to you a lot?" And I was like, "If it happened more, I wouldn't be here with you right now."
Oh,
You know?
fair enough. Fair enough.
Not nearly as much as I'd like. I gotta be honest. I wouldn't be stocking sympathy cards at the Dollar Tree. But
Oh my God.
everybody's got to do what they got to do out here. You know,
That's right. That's right.
Stand-up comedians.
Someday
not an
you guys
essential
will.
job.
Yeah. Right.
Learned
Yeah.
that real fast during COVID.
You guys are, not essential, which is crazy because
Should be.
It should be. It really should be.
Because laughter is the best medicine.
It really is. Yes, ma'am. It really is.
And it's funny because as serious and as somber of a podcast as this can be, we try to have a good time.
Yeah,
Still,
we have fun.
somehow.
Yeah.
We manage.
We don't even know if anybody really listens.
Yeah,
but
we're not
we
sure.
Have,
We
we,
don't
have,
know.
we have a good time.
We have no technological skills. We don't even always put the
Can
episodes
somebody
up.
help us check our algorithm? We don't
Without
know.
Joe,
Yeah,
forget
we are
about it.
screwed without Joe.
forget about it.
Yeah, like Joe's everything.
Joe's our router and our modem. He's everything.
the glue, the sound mind, the
We
wise,
love Joe Malone.
the wise.
That's all we're saying.
Yeah, yeah, he's everything. We're lost without you, Joe. He needs a raise. Well, that was a full hour, over an hour of just
The good ones always go a
Intense.
little long.
intense information. But anything you want to say in closing, either of you? I'll just say get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Get vaccinated.
Let's get a handle on this
Yeah,
thing.
wash your
For
fucking
sure.
hands.
Just do this stuff.
Wear your mask.
Wear
Keep
your
your
mask.
distance.
And be kind to each other.
Yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
That's one of the main things. And for those that think getting vaccinated doesn't make a difference, I had COVID in December. I got vaccinated in April. I have been blessed to not get COVID a second time, but it doesn't stop you from getting COVID. It
Right.
just makes your body more prepared to handle it should you get it, so it won't be so bad. So
Yeah.
please, if it's anybody you love, even if it's your fur babies,
yeah,
get vaccinated because they can get it too.
yeah,
It gives you a chance of living
Yeah.
to tell about it.
Exactly.
A
Yes.
much better chance.
yeah. Don't leave
So-
people behind. Don't leave your fur babies behind for people to take care. You know, it's like just do what you can do to keep yourself healthy and yes, and be kind to each other. I forget about that because I'm in such an angry part of my life. But yes, be nice.
Remember, please, everybody needs somebody. Find your person.
Yes, yes, man. God, it's just a wise old bird over here. She is. Love it. Justin, it's good to see you, man. Thanks for
Always
inviting
good.
her.
I think it was a good talk.
Yeah.
And
Putting in some work.
thanks. Yeah, everybody's trying their best out here.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Thanks for everybody out there listening, hanging in there with us. I want to say we're right at about a year doing this show.
Yep.
Not exactly the exact date, but October last year we started this wild journey, and I think we've covered some pretty cool ground, and we've learned a lot, and it's been a lot of fun.
We'll keep going until we run out of sad shit to talk about, which will be never.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's the human condition.
But we will meet back with you guys hopefully soon, and until then,
Hang in there, guys.